Okay, so welcome everybody to the third day of the ASIS mid-year conference. This conference was put together, it's sort of a follow-on to the 24-hour conference that we did last year, with the primary difference being that we're not doing it all in 24 hours. We have spread the 24 hours over 3 days. The staff is still on the fence about which one is better, whether or not it's more difficult to go all night for 3 nights rather than just getting it all over within 1 night. But I do think we've been able to expand the number of people that have been able to attend this. So as you all know, it is a 3-day conference over the course of, actually it takes place over 4 days, and there's content in every time zone. So we have already seen participants from all corners of the world and are really delighted at how broad the reach has been for this meeting. The conference addresses all aspects of information science and technology and focuses on the expanding horizons of multiple strands and interdisciplinarity that have been interwoven into a rich tapestry, constantly pushing the boundaries and presenting new opportunities and challenges in information science. And none of this would be possible without the involvement of our 2 co-chairs, Amani Halal and Himalata Iyer. Amani's going to be talking to you in just a minute about her team and how the meeting got put together. But as I'm sure you all know, it's not possible to do a meeting like this just with staff. We really need the content experts that are able to give thought to what topics are most relevant to our membership and the best way to deliver that. So Amani and Hema have led a great team of a planning committee to do that. So thank you to both of you so much. Thank you to my staff, Kathy Nash, who is our meeting director and handles the logistics of all the meetings, and our newest addition, Kim Granados, who came in as Deputy Executive Director beginning of January and really took over supporting Kathy in this meeting and is responsible for making sure that the meeting platform works. And Garrett and Pam and Aminta, all of whom have put in hours in the wee hours of the morning to support the meeting as well. So I want to extend my thanks to all of them. In addition, we have a sponsor of this meeting, the College of Emergency Preparedness, Homeland Security and Cybersecurity at the University of Albany, which is Hema's home institution. And they bring together people, technology, and knowledge addressing 21st century challenges. So we want to extend our thanks to them. It's meeting sponsors that enable us to defray some of the costs of the meeting and lower our registration costs. So we certainly appreciate their support as well. And with that covers, oh, no, I have one more thing to announce. Hang on. So new this year and very exciting, SIG Health is giving awards to some of the presenters at this meeting, focusing specifically on the sessions that focus on health. So SIG Health is the ASIS Special Interest Group on Health Informatics, and they are pleased to announce the inaugural Best Health-Related ASIS Mid-Year Conference Paper Awards. They gave a poster award yesterday, and today we're doing the paper awards. Winning submissions were selected by the SIG Health Executive Board members based on their assessment of each paper's problem statement, appropriateness of methodology, significance and implications of the findings, originality, clarity of expression, relevance and comprehensiveness of reference, and relevance to health, broadly defined to encompass health behavior, health informatics, health information systems, etc. 2 papers were selected for the award this year. The first author of each of these papers will receive $75, and all authors will receive an award certificate. So we want to extend our congratulations to Joe Bates and Itzel Medina Perea for their paper, Beliefs, Values, and Emotions in Pharmaceutical Practitioners' Engagements with Narrow AI Adoption. So we're looking forward to that later today. And Yohanan Ukane, who is an independent researcher in Israel, for their paper, Moroccan Jews and Muslims Discussing Online Their Mutual Heritage, the Moderation Role of Nostalgia on Well-Being and Social Network Participation. So congratulations to the winners of that award. We're really delighted to see SIG Health getting involved in this way. SIG Health is experiencing a rebirth, and so we're very excited to see them coming back. And there's been a lot of great conversation already around health topics at this meeting, and I'm excited that we'll be seeing a little bit more, because there's nothing more relevant to all of us right now than health information. So without further ado, I'm going to hand the mic over now to Amane to talk a bit about the statistics on the meeting. So Amane, take it over.
Thank you so much, Lydia. Could you hear me correctly?
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you, Lydia. I know that it's 3 a.m. for you. Thank you for being here, for being so energetic and inspiring person for everyone. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening for everyone. Let me just share my screen. Okay. Is it shared?
It is, but not in presenter view yet.
Okay. Now?
Yep. Perfect.
Okay. So hello everyone, and I'm very honored to be a part of this mid-year conference. First of all, the idea behind this conference is to explore multiple strengths and this interdisciplinarity that was reflected by all the tracks and all the papers that were accepted in this conference. And if you were there in the past 2 days, I think that you already was engaged on a very interesting discussion about all the disciplines that are around information sciences. The second idea is to push the boundaries for more inclusive and engaging discussions. That's the idea of making this conference virtual so that everyone could be present, regardless the time zone, regardless of the difficulties that can occur because of maybe difficult to move to be there during our annual meeting of ASIS. And the three idea is to present new opportunities and challenges for researchers, practitioners, educators, and students. The idea is to find out how to open new possibilities and new discussions about the current issues of information sciences. And in this point, I encourage all the participants to use massively the platform. It's a very interesting platform that could help to connect people to discuss, to find out how to collaborate and to link maybe all the global and the people that are facing the same challenges and the same issues in their daily life. And in this conference, we think about how to promote the networking among individuals, organization, and institution, and to have real impact in lives, especially in all the issues that are related to information sciences. And the idea behind also having 3 days is that, as Lydia just said, we have ASIS tried the last year to have 24-hour, and it was a very interesting conference in the same Zoom link, and it was really very exhausted also. But the idea is how to give all the possibility to all people to be connected and to be in their right time zones, and to promote more networking and more discussions about all these issues. So if we want to analyze this conference in numbers, first of all, we have many numbers that are really relevant. So the first are the number of papers that were submitted. So the conference accepted just 29 papers from 40. It was really very hard to do, as it was very competitive, and we try with all the committee to choose the best quality of paper, so that the quality is really relevant for the conference. So the second number is the number of panels. They were very interesting panels, so all of them were accepted. Regarding the poster, it was 11 out of 12 11 of 12, sorry, and the total number of speakers and session were 78 presenters, 15 presentation, including 3 keynotes and 1 invited session. And finally, we have more than 133 individuals registered for the meeting and representing 32 countries. So all these statistics shows that the conference is making it global, really. So just to sum up about all the programs of the past day. So in day 1, we had our first keynote, Abriza Abdullah from University Malaya from Malaysia, and she discussed and present making scholarly publishing work for all, moving from visibility to inclusivity and priorities for actions. And we had 2 paper sessions, and we finished the first day with a panel, a humanistic foundation of information science in the data intelligence age. Concerning the day 2, we begin our day with the keynote Prof. Nadia Qaidi from Faculty of Information, University of Toronto, Canada, and she presents the subject entitled Knowledge Transition and Relevance, revisiting core information concepts to tackle our collective future. And we had a panel and a poster session, and after that we have a paper session with 2 concurrent paper sessions, and we finished the day with the last panel of the day, Equity, Diversity, Inclusion, and Accessibility in LIS to derive sustainability and growth of the profession. Finally, in this day, 13 April, we will have in next, just after my words, we will have our keynote, Nora Hirvonen, who will speak about artificial intelligence in everyday information practices. And then we will have our first paper sessions, which will be moderated by Behuva Narayan, and where we will have 5 papers to be presented there, so please be there. And after that we will have our invited lecturer, so it will be Professor Archie Dick, I hope I didn't miss with his name, and he will present information heroes from the old to the new in South Africa. And we will have after that the paper session, which will help to present 4 papers and will be moderated by Professor Manan Aburizq. And finally, we will finish our day with the panel Humanistic Foundation of Information Science in the Data Intelligence Age, and we will have closing remarks with me. So before, I have to acknowledge everyone who did a great job to have these good statistics for the conference and to help us during all the process of the conference. So thank you so much to our co-chair, Hemelata Ayer, Associate Professor of University at Albany. And I really thank all the paper co-chair, panel co-chairs and poster co-chairs, Brian, Blessing, Huva, Nushin, Daniel and Sheila. They did a really great job to select the good papers and submission, and it was a lot of work. So thank you so much for being there, for being reactive, and to conduct such a great work. I also have to thank all ASIS staff for their engagement, for their collaboration, for making it very easy. So thank you so much, Lydia. Thank you so much, Kathy, Garrett, Aminata. I'm sorry if I forget anyone, but thank you so much for all the help that you did technically and also for collaboration and so on. Thank you for all our moderators who accept to moderate the sessions. And I know that there are a lot of moderators who take in charge many sessions. Thank you to our reviewers for for reviewing papers correctly and in good to have a good and high quality papers. And finally, thank you to all participants to be there, to be engaged in interesting discussions about all the issues of the conference. So thank you so much. And I give the floor to Sheila to present our keynote. Sheila?
Where is she? She's not here.
She was there.
She was here a minute ago.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're just going to chill for a moment. Wait for her to come back. Sorry about that, everybody.
Yeah.
I could certainly go read your bio, Nora, but that wouldn't be very interesting. So everybody can do that. Give it just another minute.
Yes, I forgot to tell everyone that the videos from the conference are available in the platform. So if you missed any panel or interesting people, you can get there and visualize these videos.
Yeah, there are a couple from yesterday afternoon that I'm still working on converting. It takes a ridiculous amount of time to get them, take the 15 minutes off the front end and get them converted.
Oh, yeah.
Watchability, but the morning, all day on the first day is there and most of the second day, just a couple left. So, oh, we're gonna wait just a minute. Just a minute more. It was funny. I have Sheila on my other screen because one of the videos I'm editing, it has a picture of her at the front end of it. And I'm like, oh, here's Sheila. I'm like, no, wait, no, that's not it. Hang on. Oh my goodness. Never a dull moment when we do these things. Never a dull moment. Okay, well, in the absence of Sheila, give me 1 second while I open up Nora's bio so I can read it to you. I will step in and I will do the introductions, but I do want to say thank you to Mane for your remarks and we're very excited to hear from Nora. Nora's been a very engaged member of ASIS&T for some years, and so Nora Hirvonen is professor in information studies at the Research Unit of History, Culture, and Communication Study, Faculty of Humanities, University of Oulu, Finland. Her research is focused on people's competencies and practices to seek, evaluate, use, and create information in everyday life and in connection to health and well-being. Currently, her work concentrates on the ways that everyday information practices and competencies of young people are shaped as they interact with intelligent technologies. She approaches this research theme with a nexus analytics lens that directs focus on the ways technology-related societal issues are grounded in mundane, everyday actions, the identification of which can become tactics to change. Hirvonen holds a PhD degree in information studies from the University of Oulu, Finland, and has been granted the title of docent 2020 in health communication at the Faculty of Medicine at that same university. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Nora. We are looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Oh, can you hear me okay? Yes,
we
I
can.
Yes.
Yeah, you're fine.
Share my screen quickly. Oh, it asks me to pair with the room sharing key.
I don't know what that means, but you were fine before. So I think, but what we're seeing right now is not your presentation in presenter mode. It's in
Canva.
Canva, yeah. There we go. That might help. Perfect. Okay, you're good.
Okay, good. Very good.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nora.
So thank you very much, and it's an honor to be invited to give this talk, and I really appreciate the ideas behind this mid-year conference, and thank you, Iman, for explaining some of these ideas. I truly appreciate it. And Well, today, although my talk deals with artificial intelligence, this will not be a technical talk. Quite the contrary, I will talk about AI as something that we already encounter in everyday situations, and that is becoming mundane to us, and as such, subtly being integrated to the ways that we do things with information. And the goal of this talk is to spark discussion on the topic, and I hope that I will hear some of your ideas after this, and we should have plenty of time for discussions of also after this talk. And the session after this quite nicely continues from my talk as well, because many of the themes there will be related. And I would like to preface this by explaining a couple of things about my background, although Lydia also already introduced my sort of main merits or my position, but just to understand a bit better from the position from which I'm talking from. So as you heard from the introduction, I am not primarily a technology researcher, but consider myself as a social scientist interested in people doing things with information. But in almost all of my research, digital technologies of some sort have ended up being important in one way or another. Secondly, I live and do research in Finland, which can be characterized as a highly digitalized society. So it's likely that some of the notions I make based on my observations and my research, they do not apply to everyday life in all parts of the world, of course. And thirdly, my research focuses on the practice of young people, which is likely also reflected in my notions. So the things I see, they are especially maybe relevant among young people. So with this background, I have become interested in the ways AI systems are being integrated into our everyday lives and have begun to shape the ways we deal with information. And when talking about AI, I use the term quite broadly to refer to software systems that perform tasks in a way that we have thought to require some kind of human intelligence. Often this means that they generate outputs of some sort, like media contents or predictions or recommendations, or also make decisions of some kind. And to do this, they can use a variety of techniques like machine learning, machine vision, natural language processing, statistical approaches. But typically, the techniques are based on the usually large data sets based on which these systems learn or create things and so on. And in everyday life, these systems, like any technologies, often become a mundane part of our activities. And as such, they become invisible to us. So they become part of the background of doing things rather than the main focus of activity. But that does not mean that they would not influence us or the ways that we do things. And this to me is what I think is the interesting question, that how are these systems gradually shaping our ways to acquire, evaluate, create, manage information as they are becoming part of the everyday life experience, and with what consequences? I was recently inspired by a chapter written by Susan Lee Starr in a 1989 book, Distributed Artificial Intelligence, where she argues that instead of the Turing test, which refers to a computer exhibiting intelligence by being able to mimic the thinking of or actions of humans, we should rather implement a Durkheim test that refers to an sort of an ecological way of testing systems with respect to their ability to meet community goals. So here, Starr refers to the ideas of Emile Durkheim, a French sociologist who theorized about how decisions that apparently are made by individuals are driven by social forces. And famously, his work around understanding suicide rates in different communities sought to explain that what's happening at the system level rather than individual consciousness to cause suicide. And Starr, drawing from the ideas of Durkheim, suggested that in this chapter that a Durkheim test for AI would be, and this is a quote, a real-time design, acceptance, use, and modification of a system by a community. Its intelligence would be the direct measure of usefulness applied to the work of the community, its ability to change and adapt and to encompass multiple points of view, but while increasing communication across viewpoints. So she wanted to move from the psychological metaphor of machine intelligence to a societal one. And while Starr's ideas addressed a sort of metaphorical level of AI, I found the idea of the Durkheim test intriguing, since now, 35 years later, we are experiencing an explosion of these AI technologies where they have moved from the laboratory and entered society. And now we have truly begun to notice and discuss how these technologies are serving the needs of different people more generally, and viewing the impacts of AI, not only from the perspective of individual technology users, which is something that the Turing test sort of points to, but the communities and the society as a whole. So now we have begun to sort of talk about an AI revolution, where AI is expected to transform industries, sectors of society, ranging from healthcare to finance, transportation to entertainment, education to research, and so on. And often what happens is that in public discourse, in particular, individual AI innovations and their promise is sort of foregrounded. So, for example, recently ChatGPT has been all over the news and we are all talking about it. But what is perhaps even more impactful in terms of the AI revolution is that the way that the use of these different AI applications have increased at the same time in so many different sectors. So actually their use has exploded, and suddenly it seems that AI is actually everywhere. And in fact, AI has been characterized as a sort of general purpose technology, comparable to, for example, the steam engine or electricity or the internet. And what the history of the prior general purpose technologies reminds us is that their effects on society will be both very unpredictable and wide-ranging. So the internet, for example, it was expected to become this information superhighway, and which, of course, in many ways it did, but not necessarily in the anticipated ways. So we know now that in reality, we could not imagine how vastly the internet was to shape society. And not that I would want to sort of go along with the AI hype that's now going on. But with AI, we are likely in the same situation now, that we are just beginning to understand how these technological tools will change the way we do things, including and maybe even especially the ways we do things with information. And now to go more to the mundane level, maybe in this image you can see some examples of platforms and applications where AI techniques or tools are used in ways that are clearly connected to the ways of acquiring and handling information in everyday life. So we listen to music with Spotify and watch movies and series through Netflix or other streaming services. We use digital assistants, or some of us at least, like Siri or Alexa, communicate with different kinds of chatbots, use social media platforms like Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, navigate to places with Google Maps. We come across automated subtitles or autocorrections or automatic responses to emails, and conduct Google searches and so on. And all of these are examples of applications using AI in one way or another. And these applications, they may not seem particularly spectacular to us when we are using them. And it's not likely that we are sort of thinking about interacting with an AI system when we are using these applications. But in many ways, these applications and systems, they allow us to do things in considerably different ways than we used to do them with the tools that we used to have in use. And when we apply these tools on a daily basis, rely on them to provide us news and other information, recommendations of what route to take, what to listen to, what to buy, and what and how to write, they do start to shape our actions and ideas in many ways. To be a bit more concrete, I will give you a couple of examples of what I mean. First, what's for sure is that AI tools are being used as information mediators, which for us has already enabled new ways to discover information. So applications like Netflix and Spotify, for example, and many social media platforms use AI tools to recommend, curate, and moderate content based on their users' previous actions and location and other user data. And in many new social media platforms like TikTok, people are not primarily matched with other people anymore, like they used to in the older platforms, but with the kind of content they enjoy watching. So, you know, if you enjoy watching cats videos, you are being matched with similar kinds of videos with your without your own active input on the matter. And in platforms like TikTok, this is done in a sort of hyper-personalized or hyper-responsive way, as the application does not only collect data and respond to active online activities like following and liking and clicking on things, but captures also sort of more passive and more subtle patterns, like the number of times a video is left looping, or the time in which it's scrolled past, and so on. And as such, it sort of allows the user to remain rather passive, but still receive highly personalized content feed. And well, somewhat similarly, search engines have begun to resemble these recommendation systems, or suggest engines, like Jutta Heidel and Olof Sundin have called them, where the search results you see are targeted or personalized based on user information, and not only the information on that platform, but in others too. And overall, personalized, customized, directed content seems to be becoming the norm in these digitalized platforms. And while these systems may make our lives easier, as we can delegate these information searching and evaluation tasks to them, and they offer opportunities for us to acquire information that better meets our needs and wishes, they may also end up narrowing our information landscapes, like Lloyd has suggested, and homogenized taste. So recommended systems are not only sort of guessing our taste and providing content to match that, but they are also shaping our preferences and choices, as they provide us certain kinds of content and hide others and so on. And recommender systems are often also designed to sort of hook people into consuming content as long as possible, rather than sort of efficiently just finding the needed information, since of course that's what serves the business model of the online platforms, that you spend as much time there as possible, which is why Siva has called recommender systems as traps. And overall, what's noteworthy here, especially in the everyday life sphere, is that these AI applications that are part of our daily experiences, they are predominantly commercial applications, and as that's driven by commercial interests. AI tools have also enabled new ways to modify and augment and generate information. So AI-powered text generation tools have recently been on the headlines due to ChatGPT, especially, and they can be used to create all kinds of text items, news items, articles, essays, poems, and so on, with sort of little inputs from a human being. But beyond this, like ChatGPT, for example, we can notice similar tools in other places too. For example, in automatic responses to emails, or auto corrections in text editors, or chatbots that are used for customer service, for example. And they all make use of these text generation tools. And other AI tools are used to create visual contents, like DALL-E to make visual arts, or I mean, you can use AI tools to create realistic graphics for video games, and yet other kinds of tools or applications can be used to create visual and audio content that sort of mimics humans or modifies their features. So, for example, so-called deepfake videos that where a person's face is applied to another video of another person is an example of this. Or an even more common example could be the face filters we see on social media platforms, some of which are using AI and are extremely convincing, while others are a bit less, or might use a bit less advanced techniques and are not that convincing. And here it's a video of me just playing around with some of these filters. And yeah. And these tools, they may enable and of course do enable new kinds of creativity for people. And already we can see people using text generation tools, for example, for their own benefit, and communities are developing around AI art, and of course all kinds of new cultures are being developed around these new tools. But also, they open up new avenues for things like the spread of disinformation, new forms of abuse, like so-called revenge porn with deepfake content. Bots are used in social media to influence public opinions and spread misinformation, and they are getting more and more convincing with these tools. And overall, already a couple of years ago, it was estimated that more than 60% of the internet traffic is generated by all kinds of machines, like bots and scrapers and spammers and hacking tools and the like. And so all this development overall is bound to shape our information environments if more and more information is being created automatically or semi-automatically by using these tools. And as that is not only shapes the way we create information, but also challenges the ways that we are accustomed to establishing the authority of information or authenticity of content. And by creating and mediating content, these tools also construct reality as we know it. So they, for example, can reproduce existing biases and power imbalances through this information creation and mediation. And what to me these examples also show is that we can't understand the impacts of AI or any technology for that matter as a one-way process, that we would only focus on the features of the technology, but we need to view it as a co-evolution where technologies are shaping people and people are shaping technologies. And this is, I mean, particularly true with AI technologies, which in many ways, they quite directly adapt to our own actions. And for me, in trying to conceptualize the ways AI systems are shaping information practices, I have found the concept of affordances useful. And this concept refers to the possibility of an action on an object. So for example, a pen comes with the potential to serve as a tool for writing, and most of us have learned to use it for that purpose. But importantly, it can be used for other purposes too. So we can use a pen for, a weapon, for instance. So as such, we can't understand the affordances of an object as part of, as such, but we need to understand it as part of a practice. So when certain people make use of a tool in certain situations, then the tool makes certain kinds of others less possible. Am I muted? No?
No.
Okay.
No, it's okay. Yeah.
There was text saying I'm muted, but okay, good. In other words, affordances can be understood as relational and not property of things. So when it comes to AI, these AI tools, this concept sort of invites the questions of what do these technologies make more possible for us, and what do they restrict from us in doing so? And when it comes to this AI revolution, where AI is suddenly being used everywhere, I think one of the interesting questions is that what does this environment of affordances that these platforms and tools create together mean from the perspective of our information practices? So what is this environment of affordances enabling us for to do, and what is it constraining from us when it comes to doing things with information? And to me, this is also a matter of zooming in and out from the level of individual experience to the societal level. So since to understand this, we would need to look both at things happening in the micro level in people's lives and at the macro level, what is happening collectively and so societally. And in the micro level, the challenge is, or at least one of the challenges is that, like with many everyday things, impacts comes through repetition and routine, often not with single sort of remarkable instances, but what happens in our routines. And as changes happen gradually, we may not be experiencing them in the moment. So it's about trying to make visible something that's often becomes invisible to us. And in the macro level, in turn, it's difficult to recognize how the tools that are in use are actually being used by people, and for what purposes, and who is involved, and of course to grasp the multitude of impacts on different people. But both in the micro and macro level, I think we are faced with the need to reconsider some of the practices that we are used to and need to develop new ones. For example, how do we consider the authority of AI-generated information? Do we need to develop new ways to establish the authority, the authenticity, credibility, trustworthiness of information that's created by or with these AI systems or mediated by them. How can we exert our own active agency in acquiring information when more and more content is being recommended to us rather than us intentionally searching for it? And one important point I have not yet mentioned, what are the environmental and social and economic consequences of the collective increased use of these AI systems? And are our information practices sustainable if we think about the collective consequences of AI use? And I'm going to close this talk by going back to Susan Lee Starr and the Durkheim test. So Starr claimed, and this is again a quote, that the futility of the Turing test comes from a fundamental misunderstanding of the nature of computers and society as closed, centralized, and asocial. End of quote. And that a better measure for a machine's intelligence would be the way that these machines can meet community goals. So I'm inviting this community, and especially researchers focused on or interested in information behavior and practices who have expertise on this very issue, understanding technology use in the real world, to consider this idea of the Durkheim test and think about how we could develop methods that can better grasp how these AI systems are shaping the practices of different communities and meeting their goals, and how individuals and communities in turn are shaping these AI systems. And how could we connect sort of the micro and micro levels, the local and global levels in this investigation. Secondly, how can we, or how should we integrate AI education into our own education or information literacy education more generally? Not only to enable people's use of these AI systems in efficient ways, but to enable participation in discussions about AI and recognizing their role in their everyday lives. And finally, how can we move knowledge to action, like Nadia Kaidi formulated in her keynote yesterday, when it comes to research in this area? Are we involved in the negotiations about how AI can and should be used and regulated? How can we do things with people to generate more equal and sustainable information practices with AI, or to get people more involved in making decisions about or designing even these tools? Or what might be the contribution of our fields? What might it look like? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nora. Apologies, I did put into chat. In fact, it very rarely happens, but we had a complete outage of internet connections in my building, which unfortunately exactly the wrong time.
Oh,
so
no.
So I'm sorry that I couldn't be here to introduce your session. I can't see any questions in the chat at the moment. But there was lots of things that I was picking up on. I thought so I can start the conversation. I thought the point about being matched with content rather than people, it's really obvious, but I suppose it's not something I'd thought about explicitly before. And it does, thinking about the information chain that there is, like on Facebook, for example, that I know that a friend, and on Facebook I do connect with people I actually know, a friend will posted something, but whether or not actually, so there is a kind of agency there from a person, but whether or not I see that post without specifically going and looking for that person and examining their stream. I know that actually Facebook will control that and will also show me stuff that I've never asked to see in the meantime. And I kind of tolerate that. And I was reflecting on how I got used to that, although I haven't interacted so much with things like TikTok, where it's totally kind of focused on the content. Do you think there is an element of dehumanization? I mean, obviously there is because it's AI, but whether that, do you think there are implications for human relations in that transaction that one's having?
That's a tricky question, because of course there's also like, if thinking about TikTok, for example, because I'm very interested in that platform, it's also, that's kind of matching people with content. It also allows people to find new things and maybe create new kinds of relationships then with people. But I think it's somehow, to me, it seems problematic, the agency part. That's how can we, I mean, do we have a say in what are the things that we see? Or are we just, we are just getting used to Facebook doing things in that way, and then that's it. So we don't have much of a say of whether that's our preference or if that's sort of meeting our needs. But that's a very good question.
I've also noticed, well, I think any information professional will have noticed how it gets harder and harder to force Google to actually search for what you want it to search for, rather than to search for the things that it thinks you ought to be searching for, which are kind of a norming, a generalization of what you ought to be searching for.
Exactly.
And interestingly, Phil Bradley, who's an information expert who withdrew from the information scene for a while, but he's come back in with an interest in AI, and he's been talking about how you can use things like Chat GPT to get around this, well, not got around it, but to suggest, actually get it to suggest search strategies that AI could be used to generate your agency to interact with another search tool, which I thought was quite nice.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. Yes.
Sheila, it looks like Amane has her hand raised.
Ah, sorry.
No worries.
Yes, do jump in.
And there's a question in chat too, once we get to Amane.
So first of all, thank you, Nora, for your very interesting keynote. It was very interesting, especially that I'm working on the AI field. So my question is about using AI tools with more conscious, which means that can we have maybe some maybe society or association that could protect people from being harmed from the excessive use of the AI tools. As you know, it's consuming of time, energy, and as a computer science teacher, I'm teaching students at the age of 20, 21, 23, and they are most how can I say it, psychologically harmed because of first of all, they are not feeling very good at their age because they are always consuming the content and they are always comparing themselves with the others, first of all, and also they are not really achieving, so they feel that their energy is consumed by these platforms. And I know that it's really difficult to be disconnected as in this age. I'm now, I can say that I'm adult. And if I didn't really respect my my rules to consume the social media, I will be submerged with all this content. So how can we think about maybe a solution to find out maybe a solution for all these issues, to guide people to use it carefully and constitutionally, if it does exist. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Another very tricky question. and I've recognized, well, especially because my research also focuses on young people. So I recognize the things you are talking about, and actually young people recognize it too, as you said, that they themselves do recognize it. For example, the addictive quality that these applications have. But of course, it's even more difficult for them than to us as adults to somehow try to tackle that issue. But I think one interesting thing is that I'm noticing this sort of trend of where some young people are moving to. They want to use an old school, mobile phone with no applications, or they use these applications that restrict their own mobile phone use, so that they are trying to sort of solve this issue with these kinds of things. But I don't know. Of course, right now, at least in the European Union and in different countries and in the US, I mean, probably everywhere, and in organizations, of course, now there's a huge negotiation about how AI can be used and what's fair use and what's sort of what other purposes it's okay to use it. So I think this is exactly the kind of thing that should be part of the discussion, that whose values are, or is it sort of in our values to use these kinds of technologies for that purpose? Or for example, to just market all kinds of commercial things to people, which is another huge question. That is it in our values to use these technologies for that, or could they be used for something else that would be more beneficial for us as a society?
Thank you so much. But I think that's maybe it has to be also addressed by, I don't know, maybe the ONGs or maybe by the governments, because it's really more global phenomenon. So maybe as a society of researchers and contributors to science, here we can discuss it, but to have maybe more actions. I think that's maybe this kind of issues must be included in one of the SDGs, or to have more realistic conception, like maybe just like the other association of protection of the consumers from the all naturation, production, so on. So it's very interesting to think about it in the global way, especially that all the global is facing the same issue, and and it's and it's just have really very difficult impact in our youth. So that's the idea. So thank you so much.
Yes, that's an excellent idea. Yes.
And I think in the UK, it seems to be seen in particular in terms of online harms. So there's been a number of research and reports to do online harm to young people in particular, but perhaps not really looking at the wider values that you were flagging up. As Lydia highlighted, there's also a question in chat. Mohammed Damas asking, what do you think about ChatGPT? Is it a danger for librarians? You know that librarians and library science carry information from age to age, and now we have very good tools. It carries knowledge from centuries ago to us, and we have very good scholars now. So I think from that point of view, do you see it as a danger?
To me, I would like to say that no, no, I don't see, because it's a completely sort of different. I mean, what it can be used is a completely different kind of thing, I think, because it's a text generation tool, so it can sort of generate the kind of text that appears as sensible. But there's no sort of sense in the background in a way that it would somehow could coherently or critically evaluate the truth value of things, or where did the information come from. So I think one of the questions that's sort of very relevant to our field, is to somehow try to raise the issue that it does matter what is the source of the information. So it's not as we could just take any bits or pieces of text and put them together and that creates knowledge, but it matters how did it get to be created, the information, who is it who created it, and in what context, in what time of history, and so on. So at least at this point, I don't see it as a danger in that way. But of course, people have misconceptions of ChatGPT. So they are using it as already, for example, they are using it as a search engine, which is sort of, I wouldn't recommend to use it for that. There are other kinds of, I'm not saying I'm not opposed to these tools in a way that I think ChatGPT can be an excellent tool for help, for example, someone who's not a native English speaker. So it might help me to edit a text, for example, or find different kind of ways of saying something, or create an outline of a presentation or something like that, or give me ideas. But then to use it as a sort of search engine or as like a fact machine, that's a completely different thing. So that's maybe something that I think is, or one thing that should be, I think, included in our information literacy education too. That's why is it important that we are looking at the sources and trying to think about the knowledge generation process more broadly.
And I see that Lydia has put into chat that the iFederation, ASIS&T, ALIS, and the iSchools is putting together a task force to develop guidelines around the use of GPT and other chatbots in information science.
Yes.
I was going to mention an article I came across from a couple of months ago in the New Yorker by Chang, was likening ChatGPT to a JPEG, in the idea that it was lossy rather than lossless, that in a JPEG it may be compressed because one thing is more or less the same as another thing, so it will just focus on that one thing. And the ChatGPT being similar, but it means that you lose the variations, the granularity and the differences of opinion in just focusing on one thing, that it appears to be similar, and that you, as you were saying, you can't trace back to the source to see what is the one that it picked up and which are the ones that it actually ignored in order to pick up that one. And are they really the same, or has it, and it's just a machine, it's not been able to distinguish between what might be very important kind of different details.
Yes, exactly. And in my mind, it's sort of, already before we saw, for example, in Google, at some points it appears that they have had this sort of facts, what is it called? Like when you search for something, there appeared this box where Google had already, put up the main information to the there to be quickly quickly sort of read and received. So that's sort of like symptomatic of the same thing, that that often we or people are maybe just want to quickly get the facts, but rarely things are like that they would be only one response or answer or facts to a matter. So I think that's one very central problem with this whole AI. With the text generation tools, that they are sort of producing a narrower image of the world, or like you said, sort of narrowing down leaving out the details. And
you mentioned how we can educate new information professionals as LIS educators, information science educators. do you think ASIS&T or iSchools should be taking some sort of initiative in not just drawing up guidelines, but also starting more active conversations about how you incorporate this into the curriculum? And I was thinking, because I've been mulling over this, and on the one hand, it seems to be all pervasive. So it didn't seem to me it's useful to have kind of your week about AI. It's a bit like the digital. It's now, you wouldn't just have 1 week about online. It's kind of everywhere. Yeah, come back to my actual question. Do you think there should be some more active initiative in terms of looking at the curriculum and this?
At least I think it would be very helpful for us people who are educators to somehow have a joint discussion of where it could be. I agree with you that probably wouldn't make sense to have a separate AI. Well, why not? It could be of AI week or so, or do it in that way too, but maybe better to integrate it into different things. But of course, it's not an easy thing, maybe, to, and we are not all AI experts. So what are the things that that would be relevant, and how to integrate that? So I think it would be very helpful to have that kind of discussion. And now, I mean, people are talking about it, so it's sort of people are thinking about what should they do. And also with the, I mean, for example, at universities, should we allow students to use these tools like ChatGPT, or should we have some kind of guidelines of what to do with it? And at least in Finland, we don't have sort of general rules on it. So some universities have said some things, some have not, most have not said anything yet, but the discussions are happening right now. So,
and I'd highlight for North American colleagues that I would imagine in North America it might be seen as something to be dealt with by ALIs, but in other parts of the world there isn't really much. And we have something in the UK for UK LIS educators, but it really doesn't do anything much at all. It's very dormant. There's an occasional email, but and there wasn't an interesting, I'm just clearing out my room of 30 years worth of stuff because we're moving buildings, but I came across, there was an EU initiative which produced a large document about reinvigorating the LIS curriculum. I was involved in the part to do with information literacy, which I think was probably about 13 years ago now. But perhaps it's time for another initiative.
Yeah, sounds good. I'm in.
Okay, I think just seeing whether there's so Mane says, I also have a question about ChatGPT. It's how it's shaping our life and our future. Do you think we should talk about a post-ChatGPT, like post-COVID?
Yeah, good points. I mean, my sort of view is that ChatGPT was maybe something that sort of entered the public discourse more than the previous applications. So all kinds of things have been happening already before ChatGPT, but somehow I feel that the more important thing is the overall developments and the increased use of AI tools everywhere. So, but that's maybe the way I look at this phenomenon. So it's not one single tool that will, because often in the news, for example, it's sort of framed that way, that it's this one single tool that will revolutionize the world as we know it, and also the sort of risks are associated with one tool. For example, now that will there be a sentient AI who will, or we have these ideas of robots taking over or something like that. But to me, I find that we are, I mean, the risks are much closer to us already. I mean, they are already here. Many of the risks, as we have talked today, that I mean, the risks could more likely be that we are sort of maybe more vulnerable to commercial actors shaping our ideas or narrowing of our information landscapes and things like that. And of course, then there are these sustainability issues, for example.
Mani, did you have an opinion about that? And do feel free to use voice if you want.
So Imani writes that as inclusive tool available for everyone, do you think that it could be used for manipulation? Yes, and probably is already used for those kinds of purposes, like I talked about the social media, bots used in social media to influence public opinion. So that's probably, I mean, they can do it much more convincingly if a tool like that is being used, because it's very convincingly can appear as someone, I mean, another human communicating. So for sure, but that's already happening.
And I was thinking with COVID, we had a vaccine, and it certainly hasn't stopped it because many people are still dying in the UK of COVID, but it's mitigated the risk of it. But there doesn't seem to be an AI vaccine at the moment.
Yeah, maybe the regulation efforts are something like that. But it's an interesting thing that in different parts of the world, also this regulation thing is approached very differently. That it seems that, for example, in the US, it's more of a single uses of AI or single companies that are sort of being regulated, whereas at the European Union, for example, it's more of a broad. They are at least trying to sort of come up with a broad regulation scheme for everyone to address, but very complicated, of course, because of course we want to be able to use these tools for good purposes, and just to regulate the negative consequences. So, and it's a very political issue in a way, or different kinds of interests are also in sort of conflict in the AI discussion. Sheila, you are muted.
Yeah, I'll highlight that Lydia has identified that there's going to be sessions at the ALIS conference and I think the ASIS&T conference about this kind of issue. I was also thinking that, and if I'd been online at the start, I was going to highlight that Nora had been a valued colleague on the ASIS European chapter committee. And I was thinking perhaps that's also something that the ASIS European chapter could have an initiative around. I also wanted to identify that my colleague from the Sheffield High School, Jo Bates, is online, and to congratulate her on the paper award that possibly she doesn't know she's got yet for her paper later on. I think unless there are any more questions, I'll draw the session to a conclusion now. And so I'd like to thank Nora for a very stimulating talk, and I'll be urging people who haven't seen it to watch the recording. An excellent session with lots to think about and a very good start to the day. So I'll clap in kind of audibly, but clap kind of in any way you choose. And thank you very much again, Nora, for giving us your thoughts.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
and please
everybody.
feel free to contact me with any questions that come afterwards, or or just otherwise if you want to contact.
Thank you, Nora.
Thank
Okay,
you.
everybody, the next session starts in about 35 minutes. So we will see you in a bit. Thank you so much to everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.